I was awoken by a loud thumping sound. Startled, I sat up in bed, but I couldn't see anything in the darkness of my room. No odd shapes. Thinking it was my imagination, I went back to sleep. But for a few minutes later, the low thumping happened again. I opened my eyes and glanced at the clock next to my nightstand. It read 12 a.m. Midnight. Wasn't that the witching hour? I snorted at the silly saying. I don't believe in such nonsense. I believe that the thumping was probably an animal on the roof. All sorts of night animals tend to get up there, especially at this hour. The sound had to be coming from above, and it just sounds like it's in my room. I was about to close my eyes again, but suddenly the thumping happened again, louder. Okay, so now I'm a little creeped out. I never heard something so loud before. I shut my eyes tight and tried to fall back asleep. I wish my parents were home. They left earlier today to visit my sick grandmother, and my older brother is spending the night with his girlfriend. I almost wished Ashley was here. She's this annoying airhead from school. Can't stand her snobby attitude, and it sucked that she lived next door. At the moment, though, I started wishing even she was here with me. Thump. Oh God. I pulled the covers over my head and tried to ignore the sound. It has to be my imagination. Yep, just imagining it. I shouldn't have read so many creepypasta stories before falling asleep. Creepy stories from the site always give me nightmares. An hour passed. No more thumping. Good. Started to feel sleepy again. As I start to doze off, I hear the whisper, I have come for you. My eyes shot open. I will feast on your soft flesh. I started to cry. That voice was real. There was something in the room with me. I will enjoy the sounds of your screams while I slowly peel off your skin. I didn't want to look, but I felt like I had to. My eyes tried to locate the smooth, deep voice, the voice that was threatening horrid things. I quickly spotted it. He was at the foot of my bed. Even in the darkness, I could see how tall he was, and very pale. His large black eyes glared down at me with such intense hatred. Why was he angry at me? I don't understand, but did I even want to? Tonight, Ashley, you will die, he whispered angrily. I was about to scream, but then I realized something. Did he just say Ashley? I'm not Ashley, I managed to shout at the pale man. You're not? Asked the pale man with a puzzled expression. No, my name's Erica. Ashley lives in the house next door, I explained nervously. The pale man stared at me for a moment, and then he pulled out a piece of paper from a pocket and studied it. With a look of annoyance, he stuffed the paper back in his pocket and smiled at me. Oh God, his smile. His mouth was too wide, and his teeth were sharp, maybe even razor sharp. My deepest apologies. I was given the wrong information. Sorry to have disturbed your rest, he said politely, and then I watched, stunned, as he crawled out my bedroom window. Oh, he popped his head back inside and grinned at me with that large, scary grin. I know this is rather strange, coming from me, but would you like to maybe catch a movie one of these days? Or dinner, perhaps? I'm kind of already seeing someone, I said. Oh, pity. Well, have a good night, he said as his head popped back out. I stood frozen for a bit. I couldn't believe what just happened. Nobody would believe me. Well, it was gone now, whatever the hell he was. I finally breathed a sigh of relief. I was brave enough to finally move and went to close my window and lock it securely. As I settled into sleep, I realized something. It was going to get Airhead Ashley. I was about to dart out of bed but stopped. She was pretty nasty to everybody. Not like she was somebody I cared for too. Oh well, I thought as I snuggled back into my warm blanket and went back to sleep. It was approximately 12:15 when I entered the Johnson County Community Health Clinic. I was there for an appointment I had set up weeks ago, just a routine checkup. It wasn't a new place for me. I had been there a couple of times before. However, the place had an odd nostalgic feel to it, as if it were a location from my childhood or something, and I could never pinpoint exactly what this feeling was or where it came from. As I walked in, an overwhelming feeling of déjà vu swept over me. The hum of the flickering fluorescent lights, the white tile flooring, the beige paint that colored the walls. I noticed that there was a TV mounted in the corner, a smaller flat screen that was playing a short PowerPoint slideshow on a loop of ads and events that were being held by the clinic. I passed the empty waiting area, a small area of the main room with magazines, children's playthings, and blue cushioned chairs, and approached the woman at the front desk. She was sitting in her bluish-gray office chair looking at a spreadsheet on the same Windows XP desktop they've had since 2008. There was a sign-in sheet at the counter in front of me. "I have an appointment with Dr. Pebbins?" I asked. "What time?" 12:30, I replied. She began typing something into her keyboard. "Ah, yes," she responded. "Gary Johnston?" "Mm-hmm." "Yes, I'll tell the doctor. Please fill this out." She handed me a clipboard which held a simple fill-out form. I walked back to the waiting area, took a seat, and began to fill out the form. I was about halfway done with filling in my information when I slumped back in my chair. I hadn't gotten much sleep the night prior, and I was exhausted. As I slumped back, I noticed something very peculiar. My head never hit the wall. In fact, it felt like it went in. I got up, quite frightened, and looked at the wall. Nothing. Not a single hole or a dent had been made in the wall by my head. So I reached to touch the wall, and my fingers went through it. I recoiled in shock. What the hell was that? I thought as I reached to touch the wall again, only to find my fingers clip through it once more. Then suddenly I lost my balance, tripped, and fell directly through the wall. I fell face first onto some dirty tan carpeting. Upon getting back up, I realized that I was in a completely different room. Well, not really a room per se, more so a set of rooms, all of which connected by openings. The walls were covered in a gross tan pattern wallpaper, and there was also an overwhelming stench of moist carpet. I turned back around and tried to put my hand back through the wall, and it wouldn't go through. "Okay, what the hell?" I muttered. I looked back into the room. There were no windows, no doors, nothing on the walls other than that disgusting wallpaper, of course. It was completely empty, aside from a singular plastic blue school chair. At this point, the only thing going through my mind was fear, and the repeating thought of "I need to leave" on loop in my head. I started running through the rooms, desperately trying to find an exit, but to no avail. There was no exit. Was this my permanent location until I die? No, there had to be a way out. I wasn't just going to be left here, right? Eventually someone would notice that I was gone. But nobody did. Then in the distance I heard footsteps, but not those of humans. At least not a normal human. Alongside the footsteps was the gurgling snarl, like that of an angry animal. I began to run. I ran as fast as I could from whatever the hell was approaching me. I didn't want anything to do with it. I ran for what seemed like forever, but I was always back in the same room I started in. At least it looked like the same room, not that I could tell them apart. So I sat down, defeated. A feeling of dread filled my body as I started to cry. I was gonna die here. I'm still there. I haven't left. I've accepted my fate. In fact, I can actually hear footsteps. I wonder who that is. As you're eating dinner, watching reruns on TV, they're watching. As you sit on your computer late at night, they're watching. When you walk from your bedroom to the bathroom late at night, you can be certain that they're watching. They watch everything you do. They listen to every little sound you make. They're with you every second of every day and every day of the year. Who are they? You may ask. Well, it's not much of a question of who they are, but what they are. For lack of a better name, I simply call them watchers. Everybody has one, and you've likely already seen yours countless times. It's in the room with you right this second. Take a quick glance all around you. Chances are your eyes connected with one of the eyes of your watcher. Oh, but don't bother looking again. They cannot be seen by normal people. We're programmed not to take any notice of them. They could be anywhere though, hiding behind chairs in your dining room, watching you from atop of your refrigerator, staring at you from under your desk as you do work, peeping at you from the end of your bed as you sleep. Some people are chosen, however, chosen to be the few unfortunate bunch that get to see their watcher. I am one of these unlucky few. They're never fully exposed, but the sight of one is a sight to pity. They're almost always hunched over in fetal position, in their small, pale, bony body looking as if it would be crushed under the weight of its large head. They have large, black, soulless eyes that are always staring right into yours, always watching you, judging you. It starts slowly, being able to see them. In the course of a few weeks, you'll begin to see small movements in your peripheral vision. You will throw these occurrences off as normal, well, until the noises begin. The noises gradually get more and more defined over a 2 or 3 week period. In my experience, it was the slow padding of feet shuffling across my hardwood floor as I was trying to sleep. Then I began to hear it graze the shower curtains as I shampooed my hair. Finally, I could hear it whispering to me when I was alone in a language I had never heard before. For weeks, I thought that I was crazy. For weeks, I considered checking myself into a mental hospital. For weeks, I felt like killing myself. That is, until I finally saw it. It was about 1.5 years ago, and I was reading Robert Stevenson's novel, Treasure Island. As usual, I heard the slow patter on the floor coming from the furthest corner of my room to the end of my bed. Annoyed, I looked up, expecting the usual nothingness that I was used to seeing for the past months. When I looked up, it was the same sight I was used to seeing. There was, however, something about this sight that made me feel uneasy. Finally, I noticed it staring at me from between the bars at the end of my bed. I could just see the outline of its head in the dark of night. I quickly looked back at my book, acting as if I hadn't seen it in hope that it would just go away. I sat there paralyzed for what seemed like half an hour before I looked up again. It was still there, staring at me, looking at me, watching me. You've likely had the same experience. The difference is that you don't notice it watching you. You're not supposed to notice it. It doesn't want to be noticed. After a few days, I began seeing it everywhere, looking up at me from under the table while I ate dinner, in passing cars on my way to work. My watcher appeared everywhere. I scream at it to go away, but it just stares at me. I throw things at it, but it doesn't move. My girlfriend and friends all left me because they thought I was acting psychotic. My family keeps telling me that they can help me, but I don't need help. I just need to stare back and it'll go away. I rarely move anymore. I figure that if I bore it, it'll finally leave. I'll just have to sit here and watch it. I'm always watching it. If you like what you heard, please like, subscribe, and share with your friends. If you'd like to, you can follow me at Twitter. The handle is @FuzzyPantaloons, and I'll see you all next time.